Hey guys, so we're gonna get started. Welcome. This is our first discussion section, obviously. Thanks for coming. Um, we're sort of testing some stuff out here, so I've never recorded a session like this. We're gonna test it out and see how it works. But even though we're doing this, like, it's really helpful that you guys come here so that we can interact. Like today, we're going to go through some basic like setup stuff, but in the future, we'll probably review some content or like try to help you with parts of the project that you might be struggling with. And that works a lot better if you guys are guiding it with what you're having trouble with rather than us just kind of guessing. So, these things are for you. So they're optional, but definitely you should come. To start out, I'm Mike. I'm a master's student. I work with Peter, Professor Dinda. Don't introduce yourself.
What's up? I'm Brian. I'm a PhD student here. I also work with Professor Dinda.
And Jen.
Hi, I'm Jin. I'm an undergraduate student. Also work with
Yeah, so we're your TAs / peer mentors. So if you guys have started the project already, you've probably noticed, / Professor Dinda has mentioned in class, like, this is not a course on web development, and yet the whole thing is web development. So we're basically here to try to make this as painless as possible. So definitely use us as a resource. Talk to Professor Dinda. He's very approachable in his office hours. Come to our office hours. And to that end, actually, I want to just pull up. If you guys haven't seen, we posted on Piazza today this poll. Looks like, so not very many people have replied yet, so please fill out this poll. You don't have to do it right now, but you can. We kind of like potentially set some office hours, but we want to make sure that everybody can go to at least some office hours if they need help. So especially if none of our office hours work for you, because they're basically always from 1 to 4 right now, like definitely make sure to go and tell us that so that we can move them around, because we're pretty flexible and we're going to make sure that everybody can go to office hours at some point. So before we jump in, I want to try to provide like a little bit of context for what this course is about. So yes, you're being exposed to some programming languages, for example, that you don't know. I bet no one here knows Perl. Does anyone know Perl? Right? Yeah, we don't know Perl either, but but like you can figure this stuff out, and there's a reason why we're doing it this way, which is because this course, probably more than any course that I took here during my undergrad, is trying to simulate an experience that you might have on a job, right? So like a lot of developer jobs are going to be interacting with databases, and the first 2 labs are trying to simulate what might happen. Like you might get thrown a code base that you're going to be really unfamiliar with, especially because, as Professor Dinda mentioned, web frameworks are constantly changing. Right? Today, people use things like React and Angular. A couple years ago, people used Ruby on Rails, and before that, it was completely different. And so, like, this is an experience that you're probably going to have a lot. And so, hopefully, we can help you develop strategies for dealing with these kinds of things, and that's what I'm hoping to do today, but also to do throughout the entire course. So before we get into setting everything up, really important thing for this course that you find a group. So is there anything that like we could do right now to help people find groups? Like maybe if there's anyone who hasn't found a group, this would be a good time to like find a partner. So if that's the case for anyone, yeah, feel free to like raise your hands if you're looking for a partner.
We're looking for one more.
Cool. Great. Okay, so I guess you guys could talk later since that last time I did a discussion section, like no one had a group. So good job, everybody. But cool. All right. So there's also this. Pull up Piazza one more time. There is this built-in thing, the search for teammates. I don't know if anyone has used it. Yeah. Okay. So some people used it. utilize this thing. It's really helpful. Actually, this is how I found my partner when I took distributed systems, which is Professor Dinda's other PhD student. And that's how I started working in his lab. Crazy. Okay, cool. So here. These are sort of some of the things that I thought we might go over today. Checked off the first two. Can everybody see that? You want me to make that bigger? Or? Okay, so this is like my potential plan, and we're going to try to run discussion sections generally like this. I'll try to come up with a potential plan. If anybody ever has anything that they want to talk about, then we'll talk about it. So is there anything else that I should put up on here? Okay. Is there anything on here that you think is useless? Like, did everybody already set up RWB and you want me to move on? All right, cool. Cool. Okay, so we'll definitely start from scratch. So I'm on Murphy right now. Like, does everyone know how to SSH into Murphy? First of all, that's probably okay. Does anyone not know that? Because I can show you. Okay, good. So hopefully you've seen this before. This is your shell on Murphy. Yours might look a little bit different than mine, but it's the same thing. Real quick, because we've had several people have this problem. There are lots of different kinds of shells that you can use, which are basically just like little scripting languages like that you can use to interact with the operating system. And in fact, you have that many different shells that you can use when you're on these lab machines. Okay, you want to be using bash. One, because our handouts assume it. Two, because like all of the documentation you're going to find online and on Stack Overflow is like usually going to be bash. So the default on these machines is TCSH. You can figure out what shell you're using by typing this. Right? So mine says bin bash. If it says this, then you're using TCSH. You don't want to use that. The aura env.sh script won't work if you're using that. So there are two ways that you can use bash, right? Like you can always type this command and then press enter, and that'll always start a bash session for you. And then here's the other thing that I recommend, which I posted on Piazza, so I'm not going to go through it right now. I'll just show you what it looks like. So if you go into your, oh shoot.
No, TC. You just spelled it.
TCSHRC. Yeah, so if you put these two commands in a file called .tcshrc, then every time you log in, it'll fire up bash instead of TCSH. Okay, but I have instructions on Piazza for how to do this, so don't worry about it for right now. But for now, shoot. Okay, does everybody have bash? Because we're going to do this together. So if you have your laptops, like make sure they're out. We're going to set up RWB. Cool. So here's the course page. If you just pull up this PDF. Sorry, anyone having trouble? Yeah, what's up?
So I just typed bash, but that doesn't change it. What's the actual command?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's so that should probably work, but this is like it's just giving you the path to the bash program.
Like CD? Like change directory?
No, this runs like the bash program. So it's like a program, just like anything else. So this says like start running the bash program, which is a shell. So, yeah, what's up?
After I do that, and then I do the echo shell, it's still send it to TCSH.
Yeah, but you are running bash, so okay. So cool. So I'll take a second. I'll show you this file again. If you want that shell thing to work, you have to run this command before you do that. That's like export in bash. This is just how you set a variable in TCSH. So this is basically like what this script says is like set this shell variable. So if anytime I ever ask you what shell I'm running, you tell me bash, and then start bash. Yeah. If you guys want, yeah, I could leave this up here and you can take a second to put that in this file. Is there a question over there?
So what does it mean when we SSH into Murphy?
Yeah.
Is it supposed to switch back to TSCH?
TCSH? No. So
If you log back in, if you run this, if you actually make this file like we say in Piazza, whenever you do relog into Murphy, then you'll have bash by default. However, if you don't have this file, then it will default to TCSH.
yeah. So I mean, the shells can do all the same stuff. Like TCSH can do all the stuff that bash can do, basically. I mean, at least all the basic stuff. It's just the syntax is different. And like every course you ever take here is going to assume bash, so okay. And then, so if you are updating this file, you're going to need to log off of, yeah, you should just log off of Murphy and log back on, and then just verify that this worked. So, okay, so I'll give you guys a second. Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah. How do you...
I think you can
Hold on.
use.
Yeah. Hold on 1 sec. Yeah.
What didn't work?
How's that?
Or what? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, anybody still working on this?
So I set that up, and then it switched over to bash. And then when I SSH into Murphy, it goes back to default TCSH.
Did you make sure that this is the file that you're editing and that it's in your home directory? So it's .tcshrc. So yeah, because at first I had a typo there. I'm always making typos with this. So. Yeah, what's up?
So VNC is just a convenience, right? We'll never need to use it for anything.
So, I mean, as of now, you definitely don't need to use VNC, so I'm not going to go over that today. I think Professor Dinda suggested that it's going to be useful for later labs, but for this one, yeah, it's just convenience. Yeah. And there are other ways to get graphics. So, I mean, if you have questions about like VNC or about like other ways of accessing remote desktops, just come to office hours and we'll help you out. Yeah. Okay. Okay, is anybody still working on this, or can I go on? Good? Okay, cool. So next thing that you should do, so there's another file called .bashrc. Okay. And also in your home directory. I have lots of stuff in here, but don't worry about any of that. You are, oh, sorry, so there's actually a step before that. So when you pull up the RWB handout, I mean, does everyone know how to get to the course webpage? Like, that's pretty important. Okay, so like, has everybody like at least seen this, even if you haven't read it, because it is long, but like, has anybody not seen this handout at all? Okay, good. When you open this up, the first thing it says right here, right, is read the handout using databases in the web of things environment, right? So there's a little bit of stuff that we have to do in order to set everything up. So we're going to walk through how to do that. So if you go back to the course web page, right, it's the second thing under using database, or under general handouts, okay? Can everybody see this? Or / do they have it on their screen? Cool. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. There's like, so this gives you like lots of information, like even what types of computers we're using, like what the hardware looks like. So, it's a great reference. It also tells you how to set up VNC. lots of things that might be useful to you. So let me see, where is the,
Down. Access isn't gonna work.
Oh, okay, so before I do that, one second. Let's make this a bit bigger too. Okay, so it's really key that you do this, right? So you're interacting with like your web browser here, and all these servers are set up in this special way so that if you, so in your home directory, if you make a directory, like a folder called www, then you can access that in your browser. So here, give me 1 second and I'll simulate me not having done that. Okay, so we're gonna follow these commands, right? We're gonna mkdir www. Okay, so now it's there, voila. Chmod, that gives you permissions. So like, so don't worry about what these specific permissions are. Just do what Professor Dinda said. Cool. Okay, another important thing that we've run into, in all these handouts, there are places where it says U. Right? Whenever you see that, replace that with your net ID. So let's see what this would look like for me.
Do we include the tilde also?
In the command?
It says
Tilde U.
Yeah. So include that. So the tilde is like saying, so this basically says go to this server, Murphy, blah, 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 and then go to the home directory for this user. So tilde usually means like home directory when you're working with Unix. Okay, so I don't have anything yet, but I will. Yeah, okay, there's nothing in that directory, so nothing pops up yet, but it will. Don't worry. Cool. So has everyone done that? Has anyone not done that yet? Okay. Good. No, take.
I did it, then I put in the link and it didn't show up.
Yeah, so it didn't show up for me either, because you don't have anything in that directory yet. So we'll get there.
It's just that it looked different.
Oh yeah, sorry, because I use Firefox and most people probably don't. What's up?
Is that a typo? Should be Murphy.wot?
Oh, yeah. Look at that. There's a typo in the handout.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's actually correct. You don't have permission to access that. You will have permission to access files inside that directory. Okay. So yeah. So if you just showed up, we're basically just going through this using databases in the Web of Things environment handout that's linked to from the course page. So if you follow along, like, you definitely do things faster than I am because I'm going real slow. Okay. Any issues, or can I move on? Cool. Okay, so once you do that, you want to make sure that you have this file in your home directory. So specifically, here, don't worry about what I'm doing here. You want to run this command that I'm typing in right here. All right, so you go into this pdinda directory /339/handout. All right, shocking that has the handouts for EECS 339. You want to copy this file into your home directory. Right? So even better, run this command. Okay? Okay. Everyone good with that? Issues? Oh, really? Yeah, thanks. Huh. Okay. All good? Cool. So anytime you log in, as long as you're in Bash, you can run this command. Like, this command is always going to work for you, and this basically sets up your environment for using Oracle, for using the database that we need to use for this class. So pretty important. So this also will work if you're anywhere. But what's even better than that is that just like that TCS-HRC file that always executes when you start up a TCS-H shell, these computers have a file called .bashrc. All right, same thing but for Bash. So again, like you can customize Bash. You're doing all this fancy stuff. Don't worry about that. But add this at the very bottom. This line right here, source $ all caps home / aura env.sh. Okay, so that'll tell Bash every time you log into this server, you want to run this script, and then you can use databases. What's up?
Was the command nvim?
So
Sorry, you can use Vim or you can use Nano here. If you're not familiar with just use whatever text editor you like, and if you're not familiar with the text editors, if you don't know Vim or Emacs, use Nano. Nano's really easy. So see, this all got cut off, but Nano is a really easy to use text editor. It comes on all these machines. It's not that powerful, but it tells you how to do everything, right? So, and you can just type hi, it's Mike. Yeah, so go down to the bottom of the page. Can you scroll with this? Yeah, and type that in. Yeah, Nano will get you pretty far.
Yeah.
Okay, we all good with that? Is anybody still working on this? Okay, give you a second.
Is our
What's
is our thing supposed to otherwise look like yours? Because
No.
Mine looks not like that.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Over the all the courses I've taken in EECS, I basically added to this to do all sorts of different stuff. So it's not going to look like mine probably. So don't worry about that. Okay. Anyone still working on this? So again, these directions are all in this handout. So if you have any trouble with this, refer to the handout. Come to office hours, post on Piazza, tell your friends do that. Okay. Okay, cool. When you signed up for this course, you should have gotten an email from root at EECS with your SQL username and password. If you didn't get that, you really should reach out right now to one of us because you can't do anything without that stuff. So after you've done all this, you should be able to run SQL+. Yep. And then, so the handout, the handout tells you to run it like this, basically username / password. You can do that. You can also do it not that way, which is what I'm going to do so that I don't show everybody my password, because that would be bad. Okay, so now everybody should see this screen. What's up?
So I received an email from Dinda, but not from Root. Should I email Root or?
If it had your SQL username and password, that should be okay.
It didn't.
Okay, so if you don't have that, email root and CC Professor Dinda and say that you're taking EECS 339 and you need a username and password for SQL, for Oracle, SQL+. They'll get the message. But definitely CC Professor Dinda in case you need any clarifying.
Okay.
Yeah. So they'll get that straightened out right away, so don't worry. This shouldn't be an issue for you. Okay, is everyone here? So this is where we were during class, so I'm not going to do anything with this, but this is your SQL command prompt. So you can always test out SQL commands creating tables, modifying tables, queries. You can always test them out here. I really recommend that you do. This is like how you get feedback. Similar to like if you guys have used Python, you might use the Python command line to test things out before you put it in a script. You can do the same thing for SQL. And this is the best way to get feedback on your syntax and other things. Cool. And you can get out of here definitely with Control D,
Or you can type exit.
or you can type exit. In general, Control D will get you out of like anything. You can also use Control D, for example, to get off of the servers. Cool. So good. And then the rest of this file basically takes you through like some of the basic stuff you can do in SQL Plus and like helps you verify that everything's working. So definitely refer to this file. It's useful. But I'm going to move on to setting up RWB unless anyone has any objections. Any questions? Okay. So setting up RWB. So we're going to go back to this handout, right? Cool. So we all have this www directory, right? All right, so we're literally just going to execute these commands that are on screen. I'm going to leave out the Z. It doesn't make a difference.
And if you actually have this handout pulled up, you can copy and paste it.
Yeah, you can do that too.
If you want to.
Okay. So this command gets you all of the files that you need for RWB. Okay? And once you have this, you should be able to look at the map by following this link, right? So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to replace U with our net ID. Okay. So we should all have this screen because you haven't set up your username and your password yet. And then I'll take you through how to do that, but I just want to make sure, does everyone have this screen? Is anyone having any issues? Right? What's up? So you can just copy and paste from this handout, from the RWB handout. It's right here. And then just replace U with your net ID. What's up?
Getting that at all.
Okay. Could you help him?
Yeah, who said that? It was
Over there.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Or what's up?
I'm still getting forbidden,
Yeah, so that's, so here, I'll come help you.
So, yeah, you had to run the tar inside. I remember.
Oh, so did you untar?
Yeah. Okay, so go back. Right. You're good. Anyone else not seeing it? You're not seeing it?
Mine also says forbidden.
All right, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
All right, so open up your. Anybody else here? Open up your. Okay, 1 second. All right, everybody. So you have to run that tar command and all those commands when you're inside the www directory. Yeah.
So make sure you do exactly what the handout says.
Yes. And now run that part. Okay. Now try to. There we go. Right. Yeah. Everyone try that out. If you still have an issue, toss your hand up and I'll come in. Check it out.
I don't know why.
Still not loaded?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm getting my internal server. I'm in like the RWD is in.
www.
Just like an error in the file. But yeah.
And you did the CH mod thing?
Yeah. Wait, what was this?
What's your
Do I need to do that before like execution?
No.
Actually,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I've gotten up to here.
Okay, cool. That's good. Cool. Yeah, but I think. Oh, and then, oh, good.
Oh, do you know what it might be? Because I was doing this last night, stuff doesn't change things, and I think it's because I like change things.
Oh, this
In the
server.
read, in the
Yeah.
read.
So I'm.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So this server.
Well, I was being like,
This server.
Yeah, because I like deleted I deleted like this, like everything I got. But I didn't add some.
Yeah.
So that's why. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Any other issues?
that's fine.
Issues, anybody?
Yeah, it's all good right now.
All right, so I'm going to move on to setting up the Google side of things. So before I do that, just going back in here.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so anyone else before I move on? Okay. Yeah. So CD into RWB, you should have all these files. Professor Dinda uses more. I like less. They do the same thing basically. So check out this README. So one thing you'll always get out of classes with Professor Dinda generally is lots of documentation. You should definitely utilize it. It may seem like a lot at the beginning. I know this handout is 10 pages. It's all useful. And you'll probably want to come back to it many times. So that was my experience. Like I skimmed it the first time, and then I went straight down to project steps, and then I'm constantly going back up to understand how this is laid out. But this is fairly self-contained. This really does a good job of explaining almost everything you need to do. And then also whenever you see a README, it's worth reading. It's generally true of like any software anywhere. Cool. So we need to change this. We need to change this Perl file. So we're going to get our first taste of Perl. So don't worry about the text editor I'm using, by the way. But it's basically Vim. Okay. Cool. I'm going to pull this out here. So all right. So now that we're in the Perl, first little bit of advice about this. Yes, it's like 1,300 lines. It's almost all comments. It's intentionally written in a way such that it's basically designed for readers who don't know Perl. So every line of code has like, on average, like 6 lines of comments explaining what it's doing. So if you scroll down through this very beginning here, I mean, it's worth reading this stuff, but I'm going to skip it for now. If you scroll down here, okay, these are the three things you need to change. So DB user, you're going to supply in your username that you have for Oracle. It's going to be your net ID for most of you, I think. Probably all of you. Password, I'm not going to put my password in here. I'll do it later on my own computer. Okay, and then Google Maps key. Okay, so you need to set up a Google Maps API key, and I'm going to take you through how to do that. Note that you are going to have to set up a free trial. So basically the way that this works is you get like $300 free on Google Maps, and I've been assured that you're not going to need anywhere near $300 worth of usage on this thing. If you go over, then don't blame me. But I don't think you will. Like when I took this class, we didn't get anywhere close. So don't worry. So that's why I was setting up this new Google account, is we are going to get this API key. So this is not going to work with your Northwestern accounts, by the way. So I tried to use it with my u.northwestern Google account, and it did not work. You're going to have to use a different Google account. All right. Was there a question?
Oh no, I was just going to say that the cloud services are disabled for that accounts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I created this new Google account. It's free. So yeah, so right in the comments here at line at line 87, right? There's this link. Follow this link. Okay, we're gonna end up here. Blah blah. Get an API key. Who am I signed in as? Okay, we're going to get started getting an API key. Okay, you want maps, right? We're using Google Maps interface for this project. So pick whatever project name you want, doesn't matter. I'm just going to use RWB. Okay, I'm going to use RWB Winter 19. Right, really doesn't matter. Agree to their terms and services. You can read them if you want, but you know it's just gonna make you sad. Okay, it's kind of slow. Okay, you're gonna need to create a billing account. You've read and agreed to the terms and services. Okay, so you're gonna have to put in your credit card. I promise you won't get billed. No, you're not gonna get billed. I promise. So use an individual account. So all right, is everyone here? Because I'm gonna take this off the screen so I can enter in my personal information. Okay. All right. Anybody want me to wait? Question? Yeah. So so here at line 87 in rwb.pl, you're going to copy and paste this URL, right, into your browser. As an intermediate step, click on this and make sure that you're not signed into a different account. Right, so by default, I'm signed into my u.northwestern account. Your u.northwestern account is not going to work for this because cloud services are disabled in Northwestern with good reason. So Northwestern doesn't have to pay for stuff and other reasons. Yeah, and then just scroll down here to get started for getting an API key. Okay.
So don't take it off the big screen because you're still recording. So after they're done with that,
It's not
they
recording.
can-
It's not recording the small screen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you have it on separate screen.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So so if anyone else has issues, we'll come around and help you. I'm gonna enter in my personal information.
You want to give me your credit card number, the expiration date, and what else? The security code. I'll take them down.
Okay, so after you enter that in, you'll get something like this. Okay, so let me know when you got to this screen. Is anyone there yet? Oh, good. I'll give you guys a second. No worries. We have some time. Okay, anyone still working on this? Or are we all here? Okay, still working on it? Cool. Another minute. Anyone having any problems with this? Anyone need help? Ready to go on, or anyone want me to wait? Okay, cool. Yeah, just press next, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, it's Google, so their interface is pretty good. It's a little slow. Okay. Eventually, you'll get here. This is what you want. So, do we all see this screen? Anybody not see this screen? Okay. If anyone has any trouble, let us know. Please stop us. Okay, so you want to copy and paste this thing, right? And you want to paste it in here. Okay? So that's going to give you access to the Google Maps APIs. You only have to do this once. You never have to do it again. So everybody do that. Yeah. So once you've done this, you should be able to reload the web page once you've saved.
And it'll
You know, I can't do that yet because my password's not in there. I'll do it in a second once everybody's done. So that's line 89 in the Perl file.
I was gonna say you could temporarily change the password.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, I don't. It's nothing you're gonna crack, but like whatever. Don't want people like running up my Google Maps bill or something.
Well, that's what the key is.
Okay. Is everybody okay if I close this and enter my password? Is that okay? Anyone need any more help or anything? Want this screen up? Cool. Okay, so I entered my username and password, I entered my API key, I saved, and I'm going to reload this page, and it should look like this.
For the Murphy Maps page, do we log in using our Oracle or our EECS?
Use your net ID. So, or sorry, what? Oh, you mean? Are you asking about?
That page you're on right now.
Yeah, where it says login.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
I
So I'll explain that. So the neither, but the handout explains it. So so this is completely different, completely decoupled. Okay. So here's the thing right off the bat that just popped up for me. So like there are lots of parameters you can play with this URL. Basically, the way this thing works is like this is the page, and then there's this question mark, right? And then after that, you can enter these parameters and other things you might see as you mess around with the lab. you might see something like this, right? Like action equals various different things. Okay, this is like one way that you pass parameters to and from the browser, right? So it's going to help it with loading your page. You'll see that pop up in the Pro as well. But immediately, one that will be useful is this debug one, right? So I loaded a page where it's debug equals 1, and you see all this information, right? So like all the cookies that your browser is sending, a bunch of the SQL. You see the parameters here. It's showing up twice for some reason. So that should help you debug as you're developing. Keep that in mind. I don't want to look at it right now, so I'm going to set debug equals 0. Okay, so do we all see this screen? Okay, question? Okay. So keep in mind the map may be very slow. And this is like a thing in general. Like sometimes this is really slow. So be patient with it. Other question? Okay. So we'll have people go around and help with that. In the interest of time, I'm gonna answer the question about the login, and then I'm gonna move on because it's already almost 7, and then I can help people individually afterward. Cool. So, all right. So quickly about the login, the handout explains this. There are only 2 users that are registered initially, which is root with password root, and anonymous, right? So you should all have this, and then part of the lab is extending this to add other users. So that's one of the things you guys are going to do.
What's the password for root?
The password for root is root, just like that. Yeah, very, very secure. Okay. And so if you log in as root, you can do all these other things. Okay? So you should be able to see that too, because that's pretty essential for doing the lab. So, question?
Yeah, okay. So it's not loading. Another thing you might need to do is be sure to throw HTTPS:/ in front of your link. That sometimes is all. Not doing anything. All right.
Okay. Yeah, didn't foresee that one. What? Like they're all having issues.
Logging in.
Like with lots of stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, so, I mean, it seems like everyone's having trouble logging in. So, we'll look into that. If people are having other issues, stay behind afterward or come to office hours and we'll help you individually. Again, in the interest of time, I want to move on, if that's okay with people, because I want to be able, I want to help you not fall into the pitfalls I fell into doing this lab, and try to give you some advice generally. Okay, are people okay with that? All right, cool. Okay, so there are 4 more items on my agenda, and they'll hopefully be a little bit quicker. One thing is you don't know Perl. That's okay. I don't know Perl either. But there are strategies that you can use for navigating this code base and understanding, right? So first of all, pretty much all programming languages operate on the same core concepts. They might vary a little bit from like object-oriented programming languages like C++ to like functional programming languages like Racket. But like, put it this way. If you guys know Python or like anything else, most of the stuff you can do in a language like that, you can do in Perl. And you should be able to hopefully get some sense of how it's working. So the nice thing about this, the nice thing about the way that this file works, in addition to the comments, most of the stuff that you have to do to interact with this file is wrapped in these nice helper functions that Professor Dinda created when he wrote this thing. So I'm going to skip down. So I want to qualify one thing that Professor Dinda said in class. He said this is the logic layer that like interacts with your database. Okay, the Perl file does one other thing, and that's generate the HTML. So it does this with these print statements, right? So I'm going to assume that some people here have seen HTML before and some haven't. I took the course 2 years ago and had never seen any HTML in my life. I'm definitely not a web developer, so I don't know like any JavaScript either. And I'm sure that lots of you know way more than me. But I was still able to get through this lab, like doing it again just now. So I'm like almost done. It took me about 5 days with no resources, like no one to help me. So hopefully with us to help you, it'll be a little bit easier for you guys. But I mean, the way that I did it was basically by reading these comments and by using resources at my disposal, right? So it generates HTML with these print statements, and basically, like the way to think about this is it's printing to an HTML file somewhere that you're not seeing. It's not printing to like the terminal or anything like that. And so when you need to modify the way that the web page looks, look for these print statements, okay? When you need to deal with SQL queries, which you're going to have to do at some point in the lab, well, like, how do we find the SQL in this? Well, let's look for SQL. Besides that. Okay, so I searched for SQL in this code base, and I found this exec SQL thing. This might be a little bit hard to read because of my terminal. But it's like, if you look at that, right, it kind of looks like one of those SQL queries that we were talking about in class today. Like, you see the select over here, the from, the where. So you can kind of get a sense of like, okay, so maybe exec SQL runs a SQL query for me. So you can look around at the code base and be like, okay, how does this thing work? And you see that there are a bunch of uses of it, right? And then there, it's defined over here, right? So you've got this nice comment, and surprise, it executes a SQL statement. So you can like read this function if you really want to understand how it works, but generally, the better way to do something like this is going to be like this. Okay, so if you read the handout, it says out of the box, this thing gives you committee data. So if we scroll out here, right, we have these markers popping up, and you probably already saw this in class, right? You hover over it, and it's like, there's some information on committees. So you're like, okay, so out of the box, there's some committee data. And in this handout, if you go down to project steps, it says that the first thing that you need to do, right, it says only committee data for the map region and current election cycle is included in the map view. First thing, extend this to include candidate and individual data, right? So the way that you should think about this is like, okay, let's understand how it's generating the committee data, and maybe if we do that, we can understand how to generate the candidate data. So again, I'm just going to search for committee. And look, there's a comment that says nearby committees, candidates, etc. So we're going to scroll down here, and we see something like, okay, there's something called what, and it looks like it's getting committees, candidates, individuals already for me, right? And then down here, it's like, okay, this what thing runs this committees thing. We'll keep on looking around. Okay, here's like, so sub in Perl means subroutine. It's kind of like a function. Like here's a committees thing, and it executes a SQL query. And you kind of, here, like it makes a table, and like I don't have enough time to explain all this. And part of the point is for you guys to like navigate this code base and try to understand it on your own. But like you can eventually figure out how all of this works. And then the other thing this interacts with is the JavaScript. So if we pull up RWB.js side by side, I'm basically going to do the same thing. Like, okay, where does committees pop up in this? So here's a big comment. Okay. What about that? Okay, that might be a starting point for us, right? So you can get a long way just by searching and reading this code base. And that's my biggest point of advice for you, right? When you're trying to program this thing, find examples that are already working in the code base and build from there. That's the entire way that I approach this lab. And then, other advice like this stuff is very Googleable. So there are certain resources at your disposal. I'm going to quit out of here. They're mentioned, I think, on the website. But a good one is this RW3 resource, or rw3schools.com, right? So like, I don't know any web development, no HTML, no JavaScript. This thing has like all the documentation you could ever need. And then there's this website called cpan.org. And this sort of explains, this has like information on every Perl thing you could ever need. And then there's another one called metacpan.org, and that helps you search cpan because it's like, Perl's been around for a while and it's gotten really big. Okay. But, like we said, this is not a class in web development. So, you should ask questions, right? When you don't know how to do something in HTML, JavaScript, Perl, ask us how to do it. For example, if you don't know how to create a checkbox, ask us how to create a checkbox. I'd show you right now, but we don't have time. But that's the type of thing that we can answer, okay? We're here for you. The best piece of advice is like ask as specific a question as possible. That helps us give you a good answer. And ask lots of questions. Okay, so we've set up Piazza so you can even be anonymous to us. Right? So like there's really no such thing as a stupid question. No one's going to know that you asked it if it is a stupid question. Don't worry about it. Ask questions early and often. Start this lab early because, like I said, it took me 5 days now, and I've already taken the class.
And find partners.
Find partners. Okay, and then I'm just going to mention a couple specific things I did in my solution. So extending queries, this 40% thing, I wrote like 10 lines of code. That's like all you need for this. And I probably did like even a little bit more than you need. I wrote no SQL for that part. So one thing I really want to emphasize is that although the handout says this is weighted roughly in terms of difficulty, it's not in terms of difficulty of the code that you have to write. It's like the main challenge with this first part is acclimating to the code base. That should take some time. And then once you do that, there's very little code to be written. Okay. In this second part, crowdsourcing opinions, I did have to make a table. So you're going to want to take a look at this file, rwb.sql. It looks a lot like the types of things that we saw in class today. I mean, SQL's just like English, so you should be able to get an idea of how this worked. But if you get to this point and you're thinking, like, do I need to modify things? Yes. You will need to either adjust the way that these tables are stored currently, or you'll need to add another table. Don't be afraid to use this. Like, don't worry about breaking things. Like, it's totally fine. We set this up in like a very safe environment so that it's not going to have consequences. Don't wait to modify this thing. Break it. Break it early. Break it as many ways as you can. That's how you're going to understand how this code base works. And then, okay, One more thing that I want to show you real quick. And then, so I also had to write several queries for the second part, and the third part I'm not done with yet. So I'll be done with that by Friday, and can hopefully, if you guys come to office hours, give you some more advice. Okay, if you have a syntax error, so random line in this. Okay, so let's say I deleted a semicolon, like the most classic syntax error ever. This will happen. You'll get this page, okay? Don't be afraid of this page, right? Like it says that like you screwed something up, you probably didn't, but your browser gives you some resources. So if you do this inspect element thing, you will be able to get some information probably from, okay, there's a way to get a backtrace here, but I'm forgetting how to do that right now. The point is that this is another resource at your disposal. But that being said, it can be hard to track down why this happened. So whenever, this is the last thing, by the way, guys. So sorry if this is running a little bit long. So consider using version control, right? Something like Git. If you don't know how to do that, I'm going to post a little tutorial about how to use Git. Git as in GitHub. Really useful thing to know. If you don't want to use version control, I really, really highly recommend that whenever you get a feature working, like if you use version control, this will take care of it for you. But otherwise, make a copy of your working whole entire RWBP directory, save that, right, and update the clone. Because sometimes you might run into this and have no idea how this happened, and you want to just go back to the previous spot, right? So that's really important. Because like even just yesterday, I spent like an hour trying to find like a string that I deleted. You don't want to do stuff like that. Last piece of advice, read the guide very, very carefully. So here's something that caused a lot of pain for me. I was trying to do crowdsourcing opinions, and it says over here, the system should send mail to the user with a special one-time use. By the way, sending mail in Perl, like exact example of the types of things you should ask us. We'll tell you how to send mail. With a one-time use link. Okay, I didn't read it carefully, so I tried to send a form instead of a link, and that was 5 hours into a dead end for me. So like, do exactly what it says, because this is telling you the easiest way to do this. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I'm gonna wrap this up now. Like I said, this will be the longest session that we have, so in the future this won't take a whole hour. So come by, you know, hopefully we can be a resource to you guys. Anybody have any more questions? What's up?
This is a little unrelated. Is it possible to SCP files to your machine off of
So yes, but it's kind of messy. It's much easier to do it the other way around.
I was thinking if you want to use, like, if you're kind of group, it might be easier to, have out something.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna post a little guide that I made for a class I TA'd in the past for using Git with these lab machines. It's pretty easy to do, but there are just like a couple slightly different things that you have to do. And then also, if you want to set up Git, then you can come to my office hours on Friday, and I'll help you set that up. So cool. All right, cool. So I'm going to end this session.